We're back.
Pumped up.
We're back.
Feel it.
I like that.
So how's everyone feeling after the first elimination challenge?
Great. It's very real now.
Yeah. All right, chefs, Gail is here for a very special reason.
When I heard what today's Quickfire challenge was, I had to be here.
It's time to get a little messy.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. This is your podcast for all things food and pop culture. Thank you for tuning in. We are back with Top Chef Season 22, Episode 2, Brunch a la Boulud. And joining me, as always, on this journey, Top Chef Season 21 finalist, Chef Savannah Miller. Chef Savannah, how was your week?
It's been so good. I feel like nice and busy, and we've had some good weather here, but my favorite time of the week is here yet again.
Awesome. Glad to have you on. It's always fun to have you on the show and talking all things Top Chef. See, episode 1, we got really excited when we were talking about it, and I completely forgot to go over our draft point numbers for episode 1. After we stopped recording, I was looking at my computer, and I had my spreadsheet up, and I'm like, holy crap, I completely forgot about the draft points. Just got so excited recapping episode 1 with you. So here is where we stand, and spoiler alert, I'm not doing great again this year so far. So here's the rundown on episode 1. Kat Turner on my team was on the bottom of the judges table, so she got -2 points. So she's starting in the hole, unfortunately. Mimi had a couple of different things. She won the Quickfire in episode 1, was on the bottom of judges table, but also won LCK for her first episode. So she came away with 5 total points, 5 for the Quickfire win, -2 for the bottom of the judges table, but erased those 2 with the LCK win. So good job for Mimi. Shuai got top of the judges table, so he got 3 points. And then Samuel, I took him on my team since I was 1 less.
That's fair, yeah.
So we're all even now. So Samuel gets a win in his first LCK appearance for 2 points. So I have a grand total of 8 points after 1 episode. Chef Savannah, you killed it in the first episode. Pretty much all the other points are on your team. Anya got top of the judges table for 3 points. Caesar won a Quickfire and was on the top of the judges table for a total of 8 points. Henry Liu was top of the judges table for 3 points. Katiana won a Quickfire for 5 points. And Vinny won the elimination challenge for a total of 7 points. So if my math is right, you got 26. You are absolutely curb stomping me, 26-8 so far after episode 1. What do you think of your picks so far? Are they performing to the level that you expected? Are you happy so far? Would you be willing to trade?
No trades right now for sure. I would say, I don't know, I've never done a draft really, but I feel so proud of my team. I've done nothing to aid in their success, but I feel like I woke up and I'm like, whoa, we made money today. You know what I mean? That's how it feels. So my team's doing great. I literally have no regrets and no trades.
Yeah, no trades. So one extra rule I forgot to mention, I do like to throw in a trade deadline just to spice things up as we go through the season. So anyone can negotiate a trade at any time during the draft. The trade deadline is Restaurant Wars. After Restaurant Wars, no more trades. We're with the teams that we get for the rest of the show, rest of the season. If we initiate a trade and we agree on a trade, those points carry over with the chef. So if you want to trade teams, those points come to mine and vice versa. So just a friendly reminder there. So no trades at this point. Sure. I think you're killing it. I see no reason for you to initiate a trade. And right now, if I asked, you probably say no anyway. So that's okay.
I think it's a good rule.
Yeah, I think so too. Makes things fun, spices things up a little bit. All right, so let's dig right into episode 2, Brunch a la Boulud. The first thing that we see, I'll get to Daniel, the Boulud of it all here in a second, but I like when they open the episode with kind of the fun things that they do in between competitions. Who knew Massimo was a yogi, right? And Henry's painting and stuff like that. In your season, there's got to be, obviously a few hours between takes and everything. How do you guys pass the time, kind of hold up in sequestration, whatever that word is, locked up in your hotel?
Sequestered. Yeah.
Sequestered.
It feels
That's
like
it.
it feels like we're playing like Settlers of Catan. So which we did, I feel like that's part of the answer. I would say like a ton of Monopoly Go or Monopoly Deal, like all those things, like any like little quick game. We would joke that like that's when the competition got really intense, would be between takes, because that's all that really mattered, was like who was really winning in that, like the current card game. Danny is a huge runner. Like I think he tried to get 21C like run club, like or whatever, our whole thing off the ground. It didn't really work. Nobody would join him. But otherwise, a lot of it was like downtime, and I feel like a lot of us would be in our heads a lot, and like it's hard to really relax and be in the lounge and just like watch the 30th movie you've watched in succession, and without like you end up talking about the competition, and you just end up going down this road of getting in your head. And so a lot of us would spend a lot of time alone. But it's just because your social battery's kind of low too. So, I mean, to be honest, depending on the day, we were fighting over cards, but sometimes we were holed up in our rooms, like with our coloring books, because you don't have TV or anything like that. So really,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much access to the outside world do you have?
I mean, none. Like it's pretty much non-existent, because you can't gather inspiration from something. You can't have any potential information from the outside world. They definitely don't want anything, that's going to mess up the timelessness, right? So if there's anything that's going to give away a time of year, which you might accidentally do if you're talking, whatever, things like that. But more importantly, it's just to keep it fair. So you have no access at all.
Yeah. So those segments where they're showing, a video phone call between, your family back home and you, are those like burner phones that the production team gives you and then immediately tosses and throws away at the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, it is very, my fiance would always laugh because he's like, I would just expect some text from some number once every week, maybe 2 weeks. And he's like, and I would have, a little bit of a heads up, and it would be like 4 p.m. You know what I mean? And he's like, I feel like I'm meeting someone somewhere, but it's just a Zoom link. And then, they're very good about it. Like they're fair about everyone getting the same amount of time and things like that. But it's pretty much like once a week, I would say. And yeah, it's 100% like, do you know you're being recorded, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very romantic, especially if you haven't talked to your loved ones and your husband or wife or whatever in weeks. It's very sweet when you're like, hey, this is my buddy so-and-so, but
Yeah.
It's definitely like burner phones.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I guess I can imagine after being in front of the cameras for, I don't know, what, 12, 14, 16 hours and a recording day, that you do kind of just want to shut down and be alone with your thoughts for a minute after, having to be on, right, for that long. I can imagine just the come down from that, is the adrenaline dump after that is just like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Well, it's hard too if you normally like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of restaurant people, maybe this is just me, I'm like airing out my dirty laundry, but like I love to come home and watch TV and like, just like veg out on the couch. That's my way of coming down after a busy service. And so having like the busiest service of your life where it's so stressful and people are watching you and there's cameras, and then you come back and it's like, all right, go sit in your quiet room, stare at the wall. It's a unique type of hell. But I feel like once you can get around that, like if you're ever training to go to Top Chef, I would tell someone like just get really comfortable doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then you'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really fun to kind of see some people being active at the top of this episode, because of course Massimo leads yoga, right? Of course he does. And then you have Henry painting on the table. That was kind of neat. So get the little glimpses of dorm life, so to speak. So that's fun. So let's talk about the Quickfire. So obviously we're in episode 2. We had to get poutine and maple syrup out of the way at some point because, the quintessential Canadian stuff. So that's the Quickfire, and the elimination challenge is the Quickfire surrounding poutine, the eliminations around maple syrup. So the Quickfire challenge was to do a variation of a poutine, a starchy base, a gravy, and a cheese. The guest judge was Sarah Levy from Schitt's Creek. I love Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite shows, especially that one scene, the fold in the cheese scene.
Next step is to fold in the cheese.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
He folds it in.
I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
David, I cannot show you everything.
Okay, well, can you show me one thing?
Here's what you do. You just fold it in.
Okay, I don't know how to fold broken cheese like that.
And I don't know how to be any clearer. You take that thing that's in your hand, and you...
If you say fold in one more time...
It says fold it in!
This is your recipe! You fold in the cheese then!
Don't you dare!
You fold it in!
David!
Like, that's... because it made me think, like, how do you explain folding in the cheese, folding in something? It's like, I don't know, you just fold it. So it was just a fun conversation. Yeah, it's just hilarious. It's a great show. A big fan of Schitt's Creek, I take it.
Yeah, I am. And I love that, again, with Top Chef, like, I feel like when we had these actors or actresses come in, you're always like, oh, for a second I would be like, random. But like, in reality, obviously, like, she has a tie to Canada, but in reality, it's because these people love the show. And so a lot of these actresses and actors and celebrities are like, can I come be a judge? Can I come be a judge? And then they finally get to come on. And so it's cool to meet them, but they're usually just as excited to be there. I think she had that energy.
Yeah. Did you get starstruck with any guest judges, chef or celebrity? Well, yeah, chef or celebrity. Any starstruck moments for you? Yeah.
I'm the cheesiest, like, corniest, most awkward, embarrassing person ever. Like, I'm the embodiment of being starstruck as a human. Like, so yes, to all of them. But I loved Maddie Matheson. Like, that one definitely, I feel like for me, that was also like, there was backstory, right? So it kind of felt like, I don't know, like there was a story there. So when he walked in, I remember being like, oof, really nervous.
So one interesting thing Massimo said about this poutine challenge, and I kind of agree with him a little bit. He says making a poutine that is better than the real thing, I don't think is possible. I kind of agree with that, because how far can you change something before it's not that thing anymore, right? Poutine, the signature things, it's fries, cheese curds, and gravy. And it's just really this, I don't know, I don't want to say commoner, but it's kind of like the people's food, right? And it's a great hangover dish, obviously. But if you don't have fries, if you don't have gravy, if you don't have cheese, is it still a poutine? What are your thoughts on varying from a theme too far?
Well, I think it's a great base for a challenge. It's also guaranteed, right? So like, this is one that, and as you can tell, people practiced, it's coming. I feel like almost in the way the fish boil, I think about it like you're almost expecting, are they going to ask me just to make an elevated poutine, or are they going to ask me to flip it, right? So they kind of did a little bit of both. I mean, they wanted a unique, great poutine, but I agree with Massimo. I think it's hard when you have something that's like quintessentially, it is what it is. And you can take starch, cheese, sauce, or gravy, right? And you can do it a million different ways, but like the reason that people don't, and the reason that people order it the way it is because it's classic, and it does taste, I mean, in my opinion, it is the best. I think just giving them something that's like nostalgic of that with like a little bit of a twist they haven't had is kind of the route that I would take, but I don't think it's easy. I think it seems easy, but it's not.
Yeah, and there's a couple of these on here that I think went a little too far, and it wasn't poutine anymore, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I did learn a new word during this challenge, poutineery, which I didn't know was a thing. Poutineery, like specialty shops that just do poutine.
I did not know that, but it makes sense, right? Like, and there would be like some underground beef between them, and like everyone's trying to be the best. I just didn't know.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. I was like, and Microsoft didn't even underline it when I typed it in my notes. So I'm like, oh, that's great. That's actually weird. And so getting some backstory on a couple of the chefs here. Henry was kind of funny, where he's like, yeah, when my family cooks, it's like this and that, but I'm like, I need it in grams.
Yeah.
It's like it fits his personality so much, because he's so refined and he's such a high-end chef that he's like, okay, I need everything measured out. And I thought that was pretty funny. And then the fryer drama, like everybody's fighting over fryers. What were some of the standout scenes in the Quickfire that kind of, stood out to you?
Well, I definitely was curious about Fryergate. Like, in my head, I was like, because, they know they're going to be doing this. And so there's obviously some conversation before they started, like 3, 2, 1, go. you guys are all going to be fighting over the fryers, so keep in mind, keep an eye on the time. You're gonna be fighting over the fryers. Like, I'm sure there was like a warning at some point, but that seems stressful. I feel like my head would immediately, like, my brain always goes to like, how can I avoid that? But I feel like you can't avoid that with poutine. In general, I loved, I mean, I might be skipping ahead, but when they were at judges table and presenting their dishes, your girl Kat, like, her just being like, what is going on? Hold on. I thought this was like a poutine challenge. And I do find myself really analyzing the like confessionals now, because I feel like I'm just like looking for clues. And so the second anybody is like, I'm worried about this, or my fries might be a little soggy, I don't know if it's going to hold up to the gravy. You're just waiting for the comment whenever it gets served. But no, I thought it was great. I've just found myself having to like really focus in, because I'm immediately thinking like, would I do a pour over sauce? Would that make it last longer? I don't know which, if I'd be going first or last or blah, blah, blah. And so my mind kind of started wandering in all these directions of what I would do. But I feel like in general, this is a really great quick fire. And these guys, like Gail said it, but like the cooking across the board, I started taking notes and I stopped, because I would write down, something about someone's dish, and I'd be like, oh, I really want to bring that up. They all sounded really good to me, like all of these dishes.
Yeah, they really did. And with fries, and I wanted to ask kind of this behind the scenes questions, like how much time passes between the end of the quick fire and the judging? Because fries, they're great hot, they're not great room temp. So, and especially if they've already had the gravy on there, what's the time that passes, and how do the judges account for that? Because if you're last in the quick fire and there's 14 people ahead of you,
I know. I would say, the second you're done cooking, there isn't like a huge pause. They will be like, okay, we're going to start now, so they will immediately start serving. You never know if you're first or if you're last. Typically, if you have a frozen component, they will allow you to keep it in the freezer until it's time to serve, but you aren't allowed to like, okay, now I'm pulling it from the freezer and I'm going to garnish it. It's right. Like hands off. So I think that's difficult. It's hard with cold things, hot things, crispy things, but you really just have to take that into account. Like there's no, for me, it's like, there's no like guarantee that you're going to go first. There's no guarantee you're going to go last. So whatever you do, just try to make it as shelf stable as possible. But I think especially with like a poutine challenge, the judges are definitely taking it into account. Like, I'm sure it's not as crispy as it normally would be, but they're giving people the benefit of the doubt in that situation. It's what I'm assuming, because there's just no way, like, that whole process of tasting, 14 dishes, whatever it is. I mean, that's taking like 20 minutes at least,
Yeah. And then the time, I don't know how often they say, okay, cut, reset, and then having to do it all over again. Right. And I would imagine there's probably not too much of that for the food quality purposes of it all. But I mean,
they're pretty.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. They're pretty efficient, like in that sense, but also like, I'll be honest, they're usually just on their shit. So if they're ever like, if you mess up, like the Kenny in our season was like trying to say, oh, I just needed to tweak it. And he's like, I just needed to twerk, and like, it was one of the funniest moments, but like, that was a genuine accident, and they don't have time. They're like, all right, that was your 30 seconds. Get off the screen. So they're pretty fast.
Yeah, that was a funny moment too. Very viral, because that was hilarious. So let's talk about the top and bottom of the quick fire. So let's start with the bottom, and we were talking about how far can you deviate from a theme before it's no longer that theme. And I think the ones that were on the bottom demonstrated that. So you had Bailey that just like threw everything on top of the poutine, and it was like a Korean inspired thing. I think with her, she just needs to learn to edit. It was just way too much. Poutine is good because of its simplicity. So when you have too much going on, is it still poutine? I don't know. Henry, they said, was probably the least poutine of the bunch, I guess. And Paula just had too much sauce. So do you agree with the judges' assessments on these bottom three?
Yeah, I mean, I like, again, even like the descriptions of these dishes, I think on paper they all sounded really great. But I agree. When I saw Bailey's dish, I mean, I'd never heard of that before. I was like, what is this? Maybe that's just me. But I was like Googling what arrabbiata. Yeah, arrabbiata. But then Yeah, I did think it was a lot of stuff. Every season I do feel like there's one or two people who just kind of like it's the kitchen sink,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on the plate, which I agreed with that. I really wanted the scallion pancake, just because of that moment of like, oh, I need it in grams. Like I feel like it was in my head. I'm thinking, wow, this kid grew up with like, I'm back. Sorry, I was like, wow, this kid grew up with like this mom who made these like delicious scallion pancakes, right? He like
Mm-hmm.
she's such a good cook that she doesn't need a recipe, which means that you grew up with good food.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're like, I need that in grams, which means that you know how to cook good food. Not like, oh, I use grams, I know how to cook good food, but you get what I'm saying. And like,
Right.
I was really excited about that. So I was bummed that it didn't work out. But no, I mean, I think across the board, and then it seems like Paula, maybe it's straying a little far, but like fryer situation, fryer drama, it kind of checks out.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
So
about you?
on the yeah, I mean, I agreed with that. I think the scallion pancake just veered way too far. There,
Mhm.
it just wasn't a poutine anymore. It was a scallion pancake with some sauce, and I love scallion pancakes. So I hated to hear the word what they say spongy
Yeah.
was used to describe it. So that was a little disheartening, especially after hearing his story about, oh yeah, my mom cooks these scallion pancakes, and then you deliver a subpar scallion pancakes, like, oh man, you let mom down.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to forego the exact measurements and kind of cook with your heart, right? And that's I think
Yeah.
Henry got kind of caught up in the technical side of things, and it just wasn't poutine enough. So that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
So on the top, we had Kat. They mentioned she had a lot of depth in her poutine. Massimo, he had a really good looking poutine, like rewrapped the package, so to speak. And
Hmm.
Shuai had that perfect fondant potato. So I liked Kat's because she even said, I'm going to try to keep it somewhat traditional. And then as she's looking around, she's like, oh my gosh, I see all these like Michelin level poutines. And I'm like, what am I doing? But they liked it. And I think because
Yeah.
she kept it as close to the original as possible while putting her own spin to it, just reminded the judges, hey, this is poutine. I mean, it's not fries, it's roasted potatoes and all the other stuff, but it was still somewhat of a poutine. And then Massimo, his looked really great. And then I love a good fondant potato. So Schwei's to me looked really great. What did you think of
Yeah.
the top three?
I thought it was great. Like again, Kat stuck out to me. I think it's one of those things where it's like I would never, as a chef, I'm not really gonna wake up one day and be like, let me recreate poutine because, like Massimo said, like it's already the best thing ever. So I like that Kat was kind of just like doing the challenge, but like honoring also like I'm from Wisconsin. Like I'm gonna use
Mm-hmm.
cheese curds and I'm gonna blah blah blah. I'm glad it paid off. I really didn't want it to be like all these fondant potatoes and potato roulades and whatever. I mean, gorgeous, probably delicious, whatever, impressive. I would have been bummed if Kat was on the bottom for any reason, just because I wanted her to come through. So I'm glad she did. And yeah, I mean, I think that the Shuai, I believe, yeah,
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that's how we pronounce it.
I'm taking Kristen's lead here, but I was like practicing. But so his dish, I love the fact that he's like, I went home and I knew this was coming and I meticulously like tested this and he probably was like setting timers and like making sure that can I do this in 30 minutes, like 100%, but like I know that at minute 12 I have to be at this step and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I love that he won because I love that preparation and just like the thoughtfulness. And it seems like, man, that's a lot of work. You really practice that. But in reality, making 5K in 30 minutes, I would spend a week working on that. You know what I mean? Like minimum, like that's totally worth my time. So I think it pays off and I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I liked hearing him say that he practiced because we talked before and you told me all about the practice runs that you did, that you and your husband would go to a farmer's market and he would have a stopwatch like, okay, you got 5 minutes to pick out ingredients. And then I was listening to a podcast you were on the other day where you actually did practice whole food runs and you would time yourself running through Whole Foods. Like that takes it to a whole nother level of preparing and practicing. And when you're on Top Chef and you're going to be on Top Chef, you got to the level of competition now, 22 seasons in, you just can't go in and go, oh yeah, I'm so just happy to be on Top Chef, and then just kind of wing it for as long as you can. You have to prep and you have to prepare. So tell me a little bit about your practice routine. How important was it for you and your success going into Top Chef?
I think, man, I feel like this is coincidentally like everyone's favorite thing to talk about with me, I think. But I realized that I think it's because I was less experienced. And so this was like my thing. You know what I mean? Like I knew that I wasn't going to like get 10 years on my resume overnight. And so for me, it was like, just like realistically with where I'm at now and the timeline of till I go, what is the most efficient thing for me to do? And it was to just study my ass off, you know what I mean? And like, just try to like learn and all these things. And it's kind of just like a really expedited version of what we as chefs hopefully do all the time, that continued learning. But I would say the biggest takeaway, just to summarize it, of like me doing that preparation ahead of time, was not to be able to do those exact dishes in that kitchen the exact same way that I practice it in my kitchen at home. I would never want to like take the love and like the spontaneity out of the cooking in that sense, because I think you can taste the difference. But I think that what I like to view it as is all that preparation was just so that I could like loosen the moment. Meaning that like the things that I might normally have to think about in that competition setting had not, me not doing that before. Timing, like the muscle memory of just like, how long does it take me to get these knives out of this bag, and like bam, 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 right? Those things were like practiced because I didn't have time to think about them in the moment, because I needed my brain to be like as open and free as possible to be creative and be able to pivot, etc., and have fun. So I think it was like vital, but like not in the way that a lot of people assume. Like, oh, so you just like did it at home and then you went there and you just did the exact same thing. That's not even competing, right? That's just like you're performing at that point. And it's like, no, that's not really it. Just all that preparation, just to really like kind of like let loose in the moment, I would say was helpful.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, you get an idea of what they're going to bring. Like Canada, obviously, there's going to be a poutine, there's going to be a maple syrup challenge at some point. So you do kind of start thinking about recipes that involve those. But outside of those stereotypical things, you kind of don't know what you're getting into. What you do know is you're going to have a 30-minute quick fire, and what you do know is you're going to have a 2 to 4 hour cook. And what can I do to do that? And what kind of things do I need to prepare myself for to pivot? And creating, I think the biggest muscle memory that you have to create is having that internal clock in your head of like, how much time is left? What do I need to do at this minute, at this time, to make sure that everything gets done at the same time? I think that's the biggest thing you can practice for on Top Chef. Outside of the known dishes like poutine that you're going to have to do at some point. So yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. And the Whole Foods piece of it all, I always wanted to ask this. Do you go to Whole Foods at like normal business hours? Like there's shoppers there. And I mean, I see shoppers in the background, but I'm kind of surprised they don't clear out at least for a couple of hours. So, I mean, I can't imagine being a normal shopper walking around and like all these chefs are yelling and like, hey, I was going to grab some beef, but this, team of chefs just grabbed all the steaks. Now I don't have steak for dinner tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So they're pretty good about it. Like, I would say, even if you are like the nicest production team ever and you are like putting up signs an hour before we start filming and you're walking around to anybody who might currently be in the store, because they're open, like they don't do anything. They do not like want to disrupt any of their business. And so they'll usually put a sign out that, it won't say what they're filming or anything. It'll just say, hi, just keep in mind that there are cameras for filming something. Like this company is filming something. And then 5 BMWs pull up out front. And so but like I would say the people in the store, if you're casually still walking around whenever they know that it's about to happen, they will follow us around on cameras. And if somebody's in a shot, they'll typically just ask them in that moment, would you be okay with us having you in this scene? You just have to sign here and say it's okay. And then there's someone that their only job is to keep track of that. But there were a few moments where people are like not into it, and I remember thinking it's so funny, and I'm like, man, some people just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. But no, it's definitely during the day, and it's totally normal. And we're just instructed that if anybody ever asks, like, what are you doing? Why is there a camera following you around? Just say you're filming a commercial. And so we'd always be like, it's a commercial, and like every time we just make them a new live.
Yeah, because nobody knows who you are yet, right? So nobody understands that. They probably don't even know it's Top Chef. But man, I can't imagine.
It was different.
Oh, really?
Well, that's what they said. Like the the team on the show was like, you know, we've done LA, we've done New York, like things like that, where people are, it's just like one of those things where actors don't get like as much annoying people walking up to them in LA. Like everyone knows that there's just actors everywhere, right? They're used to it. And so they were just saying, like, when we had all the cameras in LA, no one cared. Like in Whole Foods, literally no one cared. And in Wisconsin, they knew, like the second there was a sighting, it would be all over the news. And then there'd be people outside the hotel because they were just so stoked about it. And so I remember them telling us, like, you guys are actually like maybe C-list celebrities, like not D, like, you know, like you might be C-list. So
oh, that's great for you. I love that.
it was cute. Yeah.
I mean, I would be the same way if they did Top Chef Jacksonville, you know, fingers crossed.
I think they should.
I know Jacksonville's a great foodie city. I think it's underrated. Not a lot of people know about us, but people think we're Southern Georgia. So, I mean,
my best friend lives there. I'll have to text you from some few spots that I've been, but I've been there a few times. My best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Next time you come to visit, shoot me a text. I'll tell you where to go and who to see and who to talk to, man. I got the connections. Yes. But yeah, if Top Chef ever filmed in Jacksonville and I'm happen to be in Whole Foods and I see 5 BMWs pull up, I'm like, it's happening. You know?
Yeah, right. You're running in like.
Yeah, I'm just casually following everybody around. That'd be so funny.
So funny.
Yeah. So all right. So we digress. So back to the quickfire. Shuai wins. He gets $5K for the fondant potato. I feel like Kat should have won because to me personally, I feel like Kat should have won. It was just closest to the spirit of poutine. Shuai's looked great. It was a perfect fondant potato with a cheese sauce, but to me, it didn't read poutine, right? So, but I'm sure it was great. I obviously can't taste the food, but for me, the spirit of the challenge was like, okay, elevate poutine, and Kat's just kind of still rang true as poutine. I don't know. What do you feel the same, or you think different?
I mean, I think that this is one of those things where it's just it just came down to flavor. Like, I just think that they both probably tasted so good and that his might have been just like a little bit more irresistible, or, you know, you just keep going back to it. But also, you know, if they close their eyes and they eat it and they're like, they both taste just like poutine to me, but technically this feels like he may have put in a little bit more effort / I just think it's like the ingenuity of like, I don't think he used a fryer, right?
I don't think so. No,
yeah, I don't think he would have. But so like in that moment, you're like, I would want to give him bonus points just for being like, you knew that these fryers would be busy and crowded, and so you did something different, and it tastes great, and it fits the challenge. So I don't know. I think it really depends. If I tasted them, I feel like you'd have a better idea.
That's a good point about closing your eyes and tasting both. Right. And does he, even if it's in a different package, does it still taste poutine?
Poutine.
I'm sorry. It's stuck
needs to
in
be
my head
the name of the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Poutine. So yeah, that's a good point. Closing your eyes and tasting is like, does it taste like a poutine, even though it's not? So yeah, that's good. All right, so moving on to the elimination challenge. They're divided into 2 teams of 7 to create a brunch menu. I love brunch. Each team member is responsible for 1 dish, and it must have a maple component, so the other stereotypical Canadian ingredient. So the guest judge, literally no introduction, was Daniel Boulud. Were you surprised that they pulled the Boulud card so early in the season? I feel like a chef at the level of Boulud would be later on, where he doesn't have to eat 14 dishes, right? Where he would be maybe Restaurant Wars or later.
To be honest, I think, because I mean, Boulud is incredible, but like, that's why I could see it happening anytime. Like, you would expect him at the end, but I think it's cool to just be like, bam, Boulud. You know, like, it sounds like I'm introducing Emerald, but like, bam! Sorry. Bam! But, it's just kind of like right off the gate. If anything, it's like, bam! I wonder if some people are going into this, like, season 22, you know, like Canada, like, I don't know what to expect. Poutine, Daniel Boulud, what? Like, it just kind of shakes things up.
Yeah,
I like it.
I liked it too, and I think it really emphasizes the seriousness of like, okay, you need to be cooking from day one, right? Don't float in the middle. You need to stand out early. So having Boulud on there would definitely do that for you. Tom had an interesting quote on here. He says he hates eating brunch and he hates like doing brunch. And I've heard that from chef friends. They hate brunch service. What is it with brunch service that chefs hate doing so much?
Oh, how much time do we have left? Okay.
As much time as you want.
I think, you know, it's really, I am conflicted about it because when I am like really like in my sweet spot as a human, you know, you're just having a good day. And I'm fully awake and alert at that time of the morning. I love brunch service because it's like you smell bacon, you know, it's like usually people are in a good mood, the sun is shining, there's like a different playlist, blah, blah, blah. I don't really eat brunch. I'm not a huge breakfast eater to begin with, but I think in general, like the sentiment from the industry about hating brunch, most people, you know, go out on Saturday night or Friday night. And so brunch is when like Saturday morning or Sunday morning. So what sucks is like working a 200 person brunch on Mother's Day weekend and everyone is celebrating. So their reservation is the most important. And so, you know, that comes with its whole set of challenges. Plus, you're going to cook all these eggs to order different ways. Usually there's a lot of kids at brunch, and it's a lot of turn and burn. And like typically, I feel like a lot of people are a little hungover.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine being a chef, having to cook dinner service the night before, not getting home till 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes, and then having to get up or not even go to sleep. You know, you just rolling into work at 7 a.m. to do brunch service.
We call it a clopen.
A clopen, close open.
Yeah, when I was in Boston, there were so many nights like that. Like we would deep clean on Saturdays, and so I mean that kitchen was like brand new, and so the general rule of thumb was like, how clean does it need to be? It needs to look brand new for the rest of forever. And so every Saturday was like hours long deep clean, and we would get out and go to like this 24/7 diner, and then we would come back and work brunch on Sunday. And so typically my Monday off was a hibernation day because we didn't sleep. So yeah, I agree with Tom on this one though.
I can imagine though, from a business standpoint, brunch is just easy profit. I mean, the raw cost of ingredients typically, I mean, egg prices notwithstanding right now, but typically the raw cost is a little bit lower, and then you're charging, you know, a higher gross profit margin on breakfast. So from a business standpoint, I guess I see it. But yeah, working it, I can definitely see why a lot of chefs hate working it.
You need your personality hires on your brunch service.
Yeah.
To keep team morale high.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So brunch is hated all around. I love eating brunch as a diner though, so you know. But
we're glad you like it, Rich.
But you know, I know. I'm glad, you know, you're doing it for me. So I love it.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much. So, but I will say, I try to hit the breakfast lunch diners that are like built that way. That's their whole business model. They're only open from like 7 to 3 or whatever. But yeah, so thank you for your service, Chef Savannah. I'm doing brunch for the good of us that aren't chefs.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir.
So let's talk about the teams. We have the brown team consisting of Lana, Schwei, Caesar, Zubair, Tristan, Paula, Corwin, and the green team consisting of Kat, Katiana, Henry, Anya, Massimo, Vinny, Bailey. First impressions, who did you think watching this, not knowing what happened at the end? Who did you think had the stronger team?
I feel like Brown.
Yeah. I thought so too.
But I don't want to say that just because, you know, it's hard because now it's like, well, definitely a Brown team on the way. But I did think that was kind of like, that was what I thought might happen.
Yeah.
But can I say one thing? Do you realize how close this is to our season? Like in the way that I thought about it in the sense of like, you know, the first episode, you know, it was a competition in which they gave the chefs something where they're kind of working together, now they're not, and we're going to throw a random ingredient at you, kind of like ours. And then their first real, or like this quickfire in this episode, our first quickfire was the hops. And so it's like quintessential Wisconsin thing. And so it's like we are doing a whole quickfire on hops, and then we're doing the Miller Lite Challenge 7 versus 7, which is very similar to the format of this episode, right?
Yeah, a lot of mirroring. I see that now. That is interesting. It's interesting you bring that up. So we'll have to see, like in future episodes, how much it mirrors Wisconsin in that sense. I don't know. Maybe they I don't know how close they film it, but Wisconsin was right there by Canada. I mean, they're practically neighbors. So could have been. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So we are some standout scenes for me on the brunch thing. Oh, you're muted, Savannah. There you go. Oh, nope, I can't hear you. I lost you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please bear with us. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We're back. We had some technical difficulties, folks, but we are back. So what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So teams. So, picking up where we left off. So, yeah, I think we both think that the Brown team, hindsight being 2020, I still thought the Brown team probably had a stronger crew than the Green team, but it was close. It wasn't by a long difference. I thought they were both well stacked, but I think Brown team just kind of had the edge. One thing that I thought was funny is Vinny. So some standout scenes here. Vinny wants to do souffle because, of course, Vinny wants to do a souffle. I mean, souffles are like you breathe wrong, you look at it the wrong way, and they just get ruined. But he wants to do it because Daniel Boulud says he wants one. And I loved what Boulud says. Like, I think he's what you call a bit of a brown nose. I was like, no, he did not. My jaw hit the ground so hard, I think it measured on the Richter scale, because I cannot believe he called him out like that. And Vinny's going to watch this back and go, damn it, man. Like,
yeah, it's
harsh.
silly. It is one of those things where it's like, all right, well, if you're going to do it, like, better kill it.
Yeah, it was so funny. So funny. And then Bailey breaking rule number 2 after rule number 1 of, I'm going to make a risotto. Rule number 2 that you never break is don't do anything for the first time on Top Chef, which she decides to do. I'm kind of, and she was my pick, and I'm kind of wondering, like, and I picked her because she has a lot of Top Chef former coworkers and bosses. Like, did you not talk to any of them before coming on the show? Like, what's the deal? What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, it kind of, like, for instance, not to like compare it again, but I guess that's kind of why I'm here, is for that insight. Like, Kalina went home on the episode where she served the tart, and like, she's like, or the cheesecake, she's like, wasn't doing it for the first time, but it just goes to show you, I mean, Kalina has won multiple competitions on TV, on Food Network, Chopped, etc. And like, I just think that it can happen to anybody, but also like, there's just a layer of like knowing your own restraints and knowing, like, it's a humbleness, but I don't mean that in the way that I think that like Bailey is like super cocky. It's just like knowing, like, I don't know if I'm gonna chance it today. Then if I am, then it's because I know I can pull it off, and like, I'm saying that as somebody who did not always make those decisions, right? So hindsight really is 2020, but like, I felt the same thing, when I thought about the people that she's worked for, it was like, dang, they're like, you've had a lot of inside information here, but also it sucks more to call home and be like, hey, this is kind of where we're at. But like, I'm glad, never mind, I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself, but yes, I did think about that with Bailey.
Yeah, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you don't cook something for the first time on Top Chef. Like, you should be, contrasting that with Zubair. Obviously, Zubair has this tandoori fried chicken that he probably can do in his sleep, and he went with that, and it paid off for him. So I think the rule is on Top Chef. There's a difference between pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and then doing something that you've never done before. Like, you got to know the rules before you can break them. And she didn't know really kind of how to make a tart. That was evident in the judges table where Tom was like, just add an egg. Why did you use maple and honey? I was worried about the viscosity. Just add an egg. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, that's, your on the job training shouldn't be on Top Chef, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was tough to watch. So everybody gets done shopping at Whole Foods, and then you see this like majestic camera angle of Kristen walking down the parking garage, which I'm sure kind of brought back memories of her modeling days on the runway, right? I mean, she looked fantastic.
She's got that part down, yeah.
Yeah, she's got that part down. And then they bring up the little twist. And I got to tell you, these corporate sponsorships, the way they have to shoehorn them in the shows are so cringy.
It's so natural. I barely even notice it.
I barely even noticed that we're getting hawked a Wells Fargo credit card or whatever.
Wells Fargo active cash credit card cash.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're reading that in the script going, oh, okay, fine. Just make sure the check clears. You know?
Yeah, right.
And then she's like, oh, you're a 2%er. I'm like, oh, okay, great. But I like the twist. The twist is they take 2% of their budget from Whole Foods and they have to buy each other ingredients for the other team. So both teams went straight diabolical, buying fully cooked things, lasagna, pizza, candy, truffle oil, which, you know, looks good on the bottle, does really not a whole lot for the food that you put it on. Now a couple of them wanted to play nice, but everybody, I think the majority was like, no, game on. You're going to get a pizza and you're going to get a lasagna. Yeah. Was that the right call as playing the game, or would you have played nice?
No, I just think for the comedy, like it's the bit at that point. Like, you know, it's one thing if like everybody was on the same page, like, hey, let's just give me some tomatoes or just give me this or whatever. And then I come out of nowhere, like, you're going to get kettle corn, popcorn, you know, or something. It would have been less natural. But like at that point, if everyone's like, nah, screw you too, then it's like, go with the flow. It's also like at that point, you don't want to spend any brain space on even worrying about trying to mess them up. You know, you're probably just like, can we get this part over with? Like, if more than anything, they were probably like, can we cook now? So, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't good fun. None of it was done with ill intent. It was fun. It was funny. I thought the way they integrated it into their dishes kind of almost made them disappear. So it was fine. But I thought the use of the cinnamon to offset or to for I think it was Tristan's dish to spice up his dish, I thought was pretty genius. So there was some glimpses of flashes of genius there in using some of these things. So let's look. I want to talk about Anya's edible pine cones. Like, how rare is it that an entire table has never had something before? Right? I don't think that's ever happened on Top Chef. What did you think of Anya bringing the edible pine cones to her bag of tricks?
I think it's pretty cool. I feel like Anya has a lot of bag of tricks, or has a lot of tricks in her bag. Sorry. One bag, many tricks. I think that she is like a silent sleeper this season, and might be like, you know, we talked about it already, like the underdog as far as like the drafts, but also you can just see in that first episode. So I love this little bit of an arc already. Like, I don't know. It does worry me too that it's like happening this early, but like, I do think, I like that there's that refinement that I feel like people weren't expecting.
Yeah. And of all the brunch dishes, I feel like I would want to try hers the most just because of the edible pine cones. Like, that's a whole new thing that obviously I've never tried before. But just to say I ate a pine cone, like that's an experience I want to have now. Now I'm going to go search for that and try to figure out how to use it or find someplace that serves it. But that was just a really cool, super creative thing to do. So everybody's allowed to bring a little piece of stuff from home. What did you bring?
So you're allowed to bring, like, you know, there's a limit on budget and like the quantity of items. I wanted to have like a really broad spectrum of things, and I wanted to like have things to fall back on that felt like they represented chapters of like my career in my life. So just to highlight a few, I went to school in Vermont. I lived in Boston, and I went back to Vermont and Boston prior to going to the show. So I got a Vermont maple block, which is cool. It's literally like you can grate it with a microplane, and it's like just maple dust essentially, which is great for finishing dishes and adding like a really unique sweetness and a flavor. Would have come in great this episode. I also brought, like, you know, we were in Wisconsin, so I got like a really nice Italian like cherry vinegar. I brought like a yuzu salt from Japan. I brought my fiance grew these chilies and we smoked them and dried them ourselves. So like a few things that I felt were personal, like I'm the only one that is going to have this thing because I'm the only one that really does have access to it. It's personal to me. But then some basic items that were really able to like use in many applications that I felt like represented chapters of my career.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. So some lowlights. I really felt bad for Corwin. Corwin was trying to do a chawanmushi and did not. He had some time management issues. And how much would you have wanted to crawl into a hole after Daniel Boulud got the one with the plastic on it?
I did. I found a hole last night. I just crawled out for this. There's things that are like reasonable and like it just happens, right? Like, again, I'm saying this is a Top Chef kitchen. Like, shit happens.
Right.
That is not the shit you want to happen. Like, that is just like, seriously, like, that's just one of those things. And like, again, anything I say is coming from a place of like, I know, like it's, it's not like a judgment. It's just like, I feel it for them. You're going to live with that forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to take at least a year for me to not wake up and that be the first thing I think about in the morning. Like, and that's my mentality, but like, I need to like listen to our last episode and be more like a goldfish, but Ted Lasso reference. But I just, I can't believe it. That was crazy. Also, it frustrated me because when he said that, and then there was some controversy over like, I don't know, I don't want it to like sink the team. I did chalumeau for Restaurant Wars, and I do think like I make chalumeau all the time. Like, in my head, I'm like, that's the easiest thing you could do. And to an extent it is, because for me, it's like, I know it, with my eyes closed, I just put it in, I wait till it's done, I jiggle it, bam, 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 here we go. But like, I think taking into account, like when we did Restaurant Wars, I didn't have a working oven the whole time. I didn't have an actual steamer set up. So we have a hotel pan and then everything, there's just things to think about. It bummed me out because I think it should be pretty executable even under those constraints and difficulties.
Right.
I think it did bum me out. Like, if you're going to say you're going to do a chalumeau,
don't put plastic in it.
I think that's the first thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know, that bummed me out, but I felt bad for him.
Yeah, he's going to be forever known as the chef that served plastic saran wrap to Daniel Boulud. Like, oh, how horrible. Like, I saw that and I was like, oh, I feel so bad for you. So bad.
Well, it's
and
okay.
then
If he's listening, I just want to say I served shitty pasta to Emerald Lagasse. So, and Kristen Kish and Tom Colicchio. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're listening, I'm with you. Feel free to reach out.
It happens to the best of us, right? It happens to the best of us. And then poor Henry had to use the fryer after Zubair fried all of his tandoori fried chicken in there, and he was like, "Man, this oil, it's gonna really screw me up." And I never thought about that on Top Chef before because of the limited fryer space and everybody's having to use it. But something as strong as tandoori chicken, the way that Zubair was making it, and then you got to follow that up with a shrimp paste, fry. I mean, how much is that going to mess you up? Yeah, it's just soaking it in, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, the oil, like fat, is a carrier of flavor. You know what I mean? So it's like the oil, that's why you have infused oils. He just made an infused oil in that fryer. You know what I mean?
That's true.
He went and he put a shrimp paste, which probably has a lot of fat in it, which is just going to then soak all of it up. And like, and it's a delicate flavor to begin with versus a not delicate flavor. It's difficult, but that's something too that's like, it feels like, man, that wasn't even in my control. Like, this was the fryer that I had to use. He probably served first. Like, there wasn't any sort of negotiation, I'm assuming, of like, hey, like, that you don't think about that in the moment until it's too late.
Right. So, to his credit, the judges didn't seem like they held that against him. Like, once they found out, like, what happened, it's like, well, I was using old oil. Oh, okay. So they critiqued him on other things besides the weird flavor of tandoori now mixed with shrimp paste. So it's good to see that the judges kind of take those things into account and don't hold that necessarily against them. They'll find other things to nitpick.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the winning team. The brown team was the winners. And I feel like Corin got super lucky because he was on the winning team. Had he not been on the winning team, he probably would have gone home. I feel like his mistake was worse than Bailey's. I mean, you're coming out there not just with an unfinished dish, but like improperly plated, and to Daniel Boulud of all people. So that would have come into it in play.
It's a hazard. I mean, like, you just think about it, like, it's if you serve that to a guest in a restaurant, chamushi is different because you're like, you wouldn't really be able to get through it. But like, there's plenty of things, applications in a kitchen where you wrap things and then you unwrap them. And like, there's dishes in my head right now where I remember having to always check if there's a little piece of like plastic hiding, you know, and someone eats that, it's still dangerous. And it's not, obviously you're not supposed to be serving foreign objects. And so it's just one of those like hair in the food moments. It sucks.
Yeah. I mean, he got really lucky. So, I mean, he probably should have gone home if he were on the other team, but he managed to pull victory out of the jaws of defeat there. So top of the judges table was the brown team, and the winner was Zubair, which I don't think was a surprise. I mean, the way he was edited in this episode was clearly going to be the winner. Talking about how that chicken sandwich kind of made his place on the map as a chef after being laid off from a corporate career. So I was not surprised at all that he won. And I definitely want to try that. I love a good like chicken sandwich, fried chicken sandwich, and his sounded delicious. So good for Zubair. On the bottom of the losing team was Henry and Bailey, which I'm kind of not surprised. Bailey was eliminated again with doing a tart for the first time. Some harsh critique. It tasted like flour. The whole just add an egg thing. So what did you think of the bottom two there? And was the right person sent home?
Yeah, I mean, and like the technical errors across, between both of them. But I think like the lack of maple, like it's never just one thing. I feel like, they're judging you on so many different layers that like, they'll go head to head, like presentation, flavor, blah, blah, blah. But then it really comes down to like, if we can't decide, who embodied the challenge better. And like, I don't think that if they didn't taste really any maple at all in Bailey's tart, which maple tart, like, I think everyone like knows what maple tart tastes like. You know what I mean? Like you kind of think it sounds classic. It sounds like I'm expecting a lot, which may have been the issue to begin with. I don't know, but I just think it made sense. I think this will be good for Bailey. Like she will either rise from the ashes and come back, or like, I don't know. But I think Last Chance Kitchen might be when somebody is making these decisions in the moment all the time, not all the time, there's only been 2 episodes, but like, sorry, but like, making these mistakes where you're just kind of like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, it feels like just settle down. Mm-hmm. You're good. You know what you're doing. You know where you're at, like, and the food that you make. And so I think that this will be good for Bailey. But yeah, I think it was a good call.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that proved correct in LCK. So nice segue to LCK there. So Last Chance Kitchen, they were supposed to make a composed elevated dinner dish because Tom hates brunch. So he wants to do an elevated dinner dish with a Canadian staple, what we call Canadian bacon here in the U.S., but as they call it in Canada, bacon. Sorry. No, it's called pea meal or back bacon. So it's uncured from the loin section. I've never seen Canadian bacon like in its raw form. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Same. It was, yeah.
I always see it as that dry piece of cardboard on pizza. That just is horrible. But so they're cooking something elevated with that. I love how Tom's like, hey, have you guys ever worked with this before? And Samuel's like, oh yeah, I've had it before. Immediately cuts to the confessional. I've never had this before. Or I was not familiar with this before. Like straight up lying to the guys. Way to hide the weaknesses there, Samuel. Good job with that.
As long as you can execute it and hide it until Tom leaves for the day, you're good.
Yeah, right. I do love that Ying's in the peanut gallery. So her ray of sunshine and positivity vibes are still going to be there. I am bold to predict that she may win. She may be the first chef to win fan favorite without appearing ever on a single episode of Top Chef.
That's true. I love how Bailey, like at first I was like, is Bailey annoyed? Because she's just like looking around every time she would say something, and then she was like, you're so positive. You're like a little ray of sunshine. And then I feel like by the end of the cook, Bailey's like, all right, like, I like Yin. You know what I mean? Because at first that can be a little polarizing. Like, we're in Last Chance Kitchen. Why are you in such a good mood? But it's like Yin just gives me like the vibes of someone who's like, every day's a good day.
Yeah, she's great. I can't wait to keep seeing her every week in the peanut gallery with her little positive comments. Good job, guys. So a couple of notes from the final cooks there in Last Chance Kitchen. Samuel's bread looked like a piece of charcoal, man. Like, and he even acknowledged he burnt bread. So you burnt it again and made a sandwich. Like,
Yeah.
Did we not learn anything the first time? And Tom saying, yeah, it was a little bit burnt in some places. I'm like, you think, Tom? I mean, looking at at least
That
what they
was
showed on
nice.
camera, he was really being nice about it. What did you think about Samuel doing a sandwich for a quote unquote elevated dish?
Yeah, I mean, like, not at all where my head would go. I feel like there's plenty of moments in Top Chef where they're gonna be like, make a sandwich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think they're gonna be like, take these 30 things and from this challenge and put it into one bite on a piece of bread. Like, they literally give those challenges all the time. So I probably wouldn't have gone out of my way to do it here. But if you're more comfortable, or maybe he's, it's just all about like, I'm going to put my best foot forward literally right now. It's all I have is this moment. I assume that's what he thought. Like, this is going to kill it. And like, getting the protein cook and everything was like necessary. And I'm glad he did that. But I definitely wouldn't have thought about doing a sandwich.
Yeah, not for an elevated dish. But, it proved good enough. He was safe. Bailey was the winner. So she turned it around right away. I don't know how close it is between the last elimination and going right into Last Chance Kitchen, but she turned it around and did well. And I think you're right with Bailey. I think in the first two episodes, she was overthinking herself a little bit. And in Last Chance Kitchen, you don't get a chance to do that. You have to come up with a plan right then and execute it. And you don't have a chance to go, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to make something I've never made before. And you just got to go. So maybe this is the turnaround that Bailey needs and can run the gauntlet in LCK and see what happens. Poor Mimi, though. She got eliminated. Pork really has her number. She got eliminated from the main competition with Pork and got eliminated in this one for Pork. Thoughts on that?
I think it makes sense. I mean, like right now, we're just going off of these 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm just a viewer, but like, I think it makes sense. Like, that is who I believe should go home first. But again, I don't think that really says a lot overall, but so far I think it's checking out. Like, there hasn't been anything so far that I'm like, what? Oh my God, and not to say that I think it's like, I know it's going to happen or, whatever, but I just think that, people are kind of showing up, and like Mimi right now, didn't execute as well in the first episode and, just really couldn't follow through in this one either. So it's like, all right, I need more brain space for everybody else now.
Yeah. We're still in the stage of the game where I'm trying to remember people's names, right? So we're really, really early in the competition, but yeah, Mimi, just Pork was her downfall in her whole run of Top Chef, which is unfortunate. I'm sure when you go to a restaurant and she has a double cut pork chop on her menu, I'm sure she cooks it great.
Especially now.
Yeah, especially now. But under the pressures of Top Chef, it can get the best of us. So it's unfortunate. Mimi, you were loved, but we hate to see you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mimi.
Yeah, thank you, Mimi, for your service. So let's talk season episode 2. Episode 2 draft points. So running down the list on my team, we have Bailey with 0 points. She got -2 for being on the bottom of the judges table, but she redeemed herself with the Last Chance Kitchen win with 2 points, so she walks away with 0. At least she's not in the hole. Paula, being on the winning team, got top of the judge table, so she got 3 points. Shuai Wang, also on the top of the judges table, and the Quickfire win, 5 points and 3 points. So I got a total of 8 there. And then Tristan Epps was on the top of the judges table for 3 points for an episode total of 14. For Team Chef Savannah, you had 3 points for top of the judge table for Caesar, -2 points for Henry for being bottom of the judges table, so -2 points there. Lana got 3 points for being top of the judges table, and Zubair, being the winner of the elimination challenge, gets 7 points for an episode total of 11. So total through 2 episodes, I have 22 points, and you have 37 points so far through 2 episodes. So I gained a little bit of ground.
Yeah.
Not quite curb stomped in this episode, but I am losing. So my pick so far is repeating the same as last season. We'll see what happens in episode 3 to turn things around. Chef, we did it again. We got through 2 episodes through technical difficulties, but we made it through. We adapted. We pivoted just like you would on Top Chef, and we made it happen.
I practiced this moment. Months before, I was like, I have my backup headphones. I know where they're at. I can get it in the dark. You know what I mean? So I was ready for this moment to be able to pivot and do what we needed to do. So thank you for dealing with that with me.
We can fix anything in post.
I love it. Amazing. This is so much fun.
Yeah, me too. I'm having a ton of fun. Thank you again, Chef Savannah. Where can people, I want to give you a chance to promote every week. Where can people
Yes,
find you
please.
and know when projects are coming up?
Yeah, in Durham, North Carolina, if you want to find me online, I'm on Instagram at SavvySav, SavvySavv. I would say it's where all my stuff is, right there.
Cool. Anything going on at M Tempura that people need to come in and try? Any new menu items? Any projects coming up?
Yeah, I mean, this time of year is like just everything I feel like is happening. So spring is around the corner. We are coming into almost a year of our brunch service. But like, I feel like it's really taken off lately. And so that's been super fun. Every Sunday we're open 11:30 to 3. I don't know how many Durham people listen to this exactly, but if you are, please come check us out. Outside of that, I do have a lot of things coming up. I'll actually be in Milwaukee with pretty much the entire season 21 cast in April for Dim Sum Give Some. Yeah, which is a big fundraiser that Dan started for Kennedy's disease. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is like this big family reunion, but I'll have to report back on the shenanigans.
Yeah, that'd be great. And, if we can happen to find a time to record during that weekend, feel free to invite them on and say hi. So we'll talk about that. So, Chef, thank you for another great episode, and good luck with everything this coming week. And we'll do it again for next episode next week.
All right, Rich. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.